मार्गदर्शन में आप पीएचडी गाइड है, आपके मार्गदर्शन में लगभग 5 लोगों को पीएचडी अवार्ड हो चुकी है, 2 का सबमिशन हो चुका है और 6 का काम जारी है। आपने 4 रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट भी किए हुए हैं। आपने अभी हाल ही में 2018 में न्यूयॉर्क में अपना रिसर्च पेपर प्रस्तुत किया हुआ है। विविध विश्वविद्यालय में आपको वक्ता के रूप में आमंत्रित किया जाता है। आपकी जो स्पेशल रुचि है वो ऑटोमेशन, लाइब्रेरी एंड इंफॉर्मेशन नेटवर्क, एजुकेशनल, ई गवर्नेंस, वेब कंटेंट मैनेजमेंट में आपकी विशेष रुचि है। आप जैसी हस्ती को पाकर हम गौरवान्वित सा महसूस कर रहे हैं। मैम, आपके लिए मैं यही कहना चाहूंगा, उपवनों में जब भी बहारें आएगी, स्वागत में आपके संपूर्ण डालियां झुक जाएगी, स्वागत में आपके संपूर्ण डालियां झुक जाएगी। मैं आपको वक्तव्य हेतु आमंत्रित करता हूं। हेलो।
Yes, so okay, I am starting on. I wish a very good morning to all. See, the topic that has been given to me today is about something which is very much relevant in today's times of pandemic, where we are struggling with keeping our pace with the education and higher education, and these are really challenging times in delivering the content, in reaching up to the thought. So the topic today is about e-learning. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So please, all of you, please bear with me. Is my screen visible to all?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so the topic that has been chosen for today's session is e-learning technologies in India, possibilities and challenges. So you see, experts have given different definitions of e-learning over a period of time since the advent of internet technologies blended with the multimedia and all. So there are various definitions, and we will go through all of them, the popular ones. So one school of thought says that electronic learning is a method of learning which includes multimedia, text, voice, etc. Then there is another group who tends to define e-learning as that it is very easily accessible, accessible from anywhere, anytime. And then there is another group which define the e-learning as an online teaching and learning method which uses information and communication technologies and deliver the content using various external drivers or hardwares and softwares. Then e-learning is also defined as a mode of content deliveries, and wherein online lectures, notes, videos, images, texts, etc. as the learning material are shared. E-learning is also defined as one platform wherein the students are educated with the help of online courses and which is enriched with the multimedia content. E-learning is also defined as the platform which provides for self-assessment tests also besides the delivery of course material. In case of e-learning, the teaching is in the form of course, electronic learning using various ICT tools and techniques, and the e-learning is a modern supplement. You see, this particular school of thought says that e-learning is not a completely independent kind of teaching and learning method. Instead, it is a very good tool as a supplement with the most popular teaching and learning methods. So it can be used as a supplement, and sometimes it can even even be used as an alternative for traditional education, but remember, not as a replacement for traditional education. The use of a specially prepared original teaching material such as syllabi, lecture, interactive exercises, instructional videos, and many other multimedia content. These are all integral part of distant learning. So the mode of distance learning, wherein all the teachers are present remotely, the students are present remotely through internet, and the content or the course is taught and the content is delivered using internet technologies. So that technology of distance learning, as well as using other sophisticated technologies which are required for learning, when all these technologies are blended, then we say that e-learning is also a blend of distance learning as well as ICT based blended learning. So these are various definitions of e-learning. Now we come to the most relevant part, the area in which we all deal, which is higher education. So what is the relevance of e-learning in higher education and how it can be used? So e-learning in case of higher education, it consists of developing, delivering, sharing the quality course content, which is and it is an effective and efficient manner. So what the emphasis here is, not only on the development of course material, not only on the transmission or transportation of the content material from the tutor to the taught, not only sharing of course material amongst the students and the teachers, but also that it should be in efficient manner, meaning thereby we should be able to it should be able to fetch us speed, accuracy, and reliability, and it should be effective in terms of the quality of learning experience of students. The students or the taught should find e-learning as a more effective method. E-learning helps to communicate between the students and tutors across the globe. What I will explain this with the help of an example. Recently we have heard that US, the reputed universities like Harvard and Stanford, these universities are going for online courses, and their various government agencies of US have recently announced that the students do not need a visa. They can just undertake the course from the place that they are residing. It means that a student who is residing somewhere in India doesn't require to go to US, get a visa, go to US and undertake the course. They can undertake the course from while sitting in their own comforts of their own home, their own country. So that is one concept. Then e-learning helps in various aspects of research also, because research is a very integral and important part of higher education, and e-learning has a lot of scope and applications in when it comes to research. E-learning is cost effective, and how can we say that it is cost effective? Because it reduces the costs that are incurred in hiring or paying to the trainers or the teachers in terms of the salaries or the emoluments of the teachers or the tutors or the trainers. Then it also saves in making the course material, then publishing it in terms of paper medium. So the course material is online, the trainer or the teacher is also available online, and the teacher is not required to physically move from one geographical location to another, so thereby reducing the cost of transportation and accommodation of the teachers and students as well. So we are going to save a lot with the help of e-learning as a supplementary teaching aid. By providing an alternative to the paper-based learning and evaluation method of traditional classrooms, e-learning has emerged as a way for organization to significantly reduce their carbon footprint. This entire statement means that because of e-learning, the course material is going to be present in the form of electronic material, which can be delivered from one location to another with the help of networking. So therefore, we are going to reduce a lot of not only the costs, but we are going to cause less damage to the environment, or we can say that we are going to leave lesser carbon footprints and thereby saving our environment. Also, this kind of technology will be eco-friendly as well. Now let us have a good look at the content delivery tools used to distribute content to the audience. So what all tools are present as commercial products, or as from some government agencies also, or in the form of open access medium? What all tools are popular ones that are there already there, which can be right away used? So first is Hootsuite. Hootsuite, this tool is free to use, open access, openly available, and it manages and publishes your content for all social networks. Hootsuite is very popularly and very largely used for publishing the content on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Plus, and Foursquare, and other popular apps. Then there are learning management systems as well, which are in short, as an acronym we call as LMS also. See, LMS, this term is also used for library management system. So here we are precisely using LMS acronym for learning management systems. And LMS allows the teacher to deliver all the learning content to their students as a personalized material, in open access mode as well as in commercial mode. That is why we are seeing a lot of applications or apps, or kind of softwares which are indigenously designed by some software agencies, and they are being adopted by various tutors, and they are delivering their content using these LMSs, and they are teaching their taught online using various platforms like the one which is we are using right now, Zoom, but there are other popular ones also, like WebEx is there, GoToMeeting is there. Then if we talk about LMS, Google Classroom is there. And okay, so, and then we know about Moodle also, wherein the courseware can be designed and the content can be delivered also. Then there is another Talent LMS. This is another LMS, and this LMS comes with tools that can help you build and distribute different types of online courses. And these courses can be designed from scratch. You can right away design your own new course. You can right away start from scratch and design your own course and launch here. And it is very user friendly also. And this can be used, and it allows you to use various multimedia files also. Then there is Easy Generator. Easy Generator is cloud-based e-learning software, and it is also used not only to create the content but also to distribute the content. Then there is popular one, Google Classroom, which is very widely used by the school teachers for presently for teaching their students, and to provide a physical classroom kind of experience to the students, if not one-to-one, if not 100%, but the struggles are going on, and the various methods and various softwares in terms of LMS are being designed and being launched and being adopted by the user communities. Then there is Amazon CloudFront also. This is fast content delivery networks, and this can also be used for delivery of content. If you are more concerned about the security, then Amazon CloudFront can be used. And then there are other products also which are licensed content delivery software, like the one CDN. And then there is Kitaboo. This is also popular. This is a product of Urix Digital, and it allows you to create, publish, and deliver the content. And it is gadget friendly, means it can be used on your mobiles, tablets, or laptops. So now let us talk about the e-learning initiatives of our government. What all e-learning initiatives have been taken by the Indian government? The government, under its program of National Mission on Education through ICT, the Union government through Ministry of HRD had come up with a concept called Meta University. Meta University concept says that this concept makes use of resources and creates a synergy between the institution's activities and available resources. It means that precisely that some institutions which wish to start some programs, curriculum or programs, and those programs are common to these institutions, and the students of these institutions, the participating institutions, can take up these courses. And there is an advantage that a student can switch from one institute to another without causing any harm to his learning experience. So the degrees can also be, you know, transferable amongst these participating institutions. So the institutions not only can collaboratively design the courses, they can launch the courses, their students can take up the courses, the degrees can be you know, uniformly distributed, and the students can switch over from one university to another. There has been success in this particular project also. Delhi University, Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi, and there is another university, Jamia Millia Islamia. These three institutions have already started some courses under this Meta University project. Then there is National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning, which in short is called as NPTEL. This also provides e-learning through online web-based courses, to especially for engineering and technology and management discipline. But there are some courses which are catering to the students of humanities as well. So NPTEL is again popular, and this is being used by heavily by the engineering and technology students. There is course material in terms of audio, video, and text lectures, and there are various research material which is available. And another initiative taken by the government is in terms of MOOCs, massive open online courses. This is a free online course. You know, these are the courses which are designed and made available in a free platform in open access mode, and the students can from anywhere in the world can take up these courses. These courses are completely online, and right from admission to the admission, then learning experience, they're taking up the course, then getting the lectures, and then taking up the tests. Everything can be taken up by the students in the form of online, and the degrees are also awarded from the credit points or degrees are also awarded by these MOOCs. Swayam, which is study webs of active learning for young aspiring minds. This is a program which is floated by Ministry of HRD in 2014. This is one good example of MOOCs from India. So this is our answer. This is the answer of India in terms of MOOCs. And I think we can take a pride in saying that, you know, India is next only to US when it comes to enrollment in MOOCs or online courses. India is just stands second, and while US is first. So most of the number of students that are taking admissions in these MOOCs or the courses that are being taken up by the students, India is second in the ranking list. So it is cost effective. The quality education can also be imparted because experts are hired as teachers, as mentors. And then there is another very successful project of Ministry of HRD under NME ICT project scheme of the government, which is called as National Digital Library of India. This is a virtual repository of learning resources, and wherein, you know, it is a single window search. You only have to write your keyword in one single window, like your Google search. You type your keyword, and all the results from various, you know, journals, from various audio, video, text material, multimedia material, material from the ebooks, and material from other research articles, or even from abstracting databases. All such results are fetched on your screen using one single window, just like Google search. However, it is much more useful than Google, because Google gives you garbage. Also, you have to refine your search, wherein the results given by NDL are all academic and scholarly material. Then there is eGyan Kosh, which is a distance learning, which is an example of distance learning education, like IGNOU. IGNOU has prepared, launched its own, you know, website, which is called as eGyan Kosh, which wherein they are with the help of which they are providing the learning experience to the students, and they are also delivering the content to the students. And some quiz and test kind of materials are also being incorporated into the system. There is another success story of government in terms of, e-learning initiatives by our country, which is EPG Pathshala. EPG Pathshala of late has been very popular, and it is very highly appreciated by the learners community, by teachers and students alike. There are more than 23,000 e-modules developed among 70 subjects. Major advantages of e-learning in higher education over its traditional counterparts, because e-learnings, some people are getting confused, or getting totally obsessed by the idea that e-learning is going to completely replace the traditional counterparts. However, this is, though it is not possible, because the presence of physical teacher cannot be replaced. And even if we talk about e-learning, it is the teachers, it is the role of the teachers to create the learning environment, to create the content, to deliver the content, to evaluate the students. Therefore, teachers are there, only the physical experience is going to be little bit changed one. So what are the advantages due to which e-learning is becoming popular? So let us have a look at that. One is greater access. Students can learn from any university, from Oxford to Harvard. Student can get admission and they can learn from anywhere in the world. So this is greater accessibility with the use of internet. Then there is resource scalability. As I have been telling you that with the help of e-learning, the institutions are going to save a lot in terms of salaries of the tutors, then in terms of accommodation and transportation of teachers or students, then in terms of physical buildings of the schools and colleges, whereas, and also in terms of preparing the course material and then distributing it or disseminating it to its taught to its students. So this is what we call as resource scalability. So we are going to save a lot of resources with the help of e-learning as a supplement. Then better results. Because of the multimedia experience, most of the users have expressed that multimedia use of the content is making the learning experience a little bit interesting also. So we get better results. Then improved pace, because we know, as a teacher, we know that we have different types of students in a classroom, wherein some students are fast learners while others are could be slow learners also, and a teacher has to cater to the needs of all types of students. So this e-learning platform and the content that is delivered with the help of e-learning platform, this is convenient for all types of students. The students can match their speed or with the content in terms of high speed or low speed learners. Then cost effectiveness, as I have been telling you, the e-learning is going to be very cost effective. It leaves lesser carbon print also, because we will be doing with the less number of paperwork. That is why, so less paper, if not completely paperless, this less paper is going to leave lesser carbon footprints, and therefore this e-learning is also eco-friendly step. Then what are the opportunities with e-learning? As e-learning depends on the tools and techniques of ICT. With the advent and advancement in the field of information and communication technologies, e-learning platforms are also going to be impacted or affected in a positive manner. Therefore, these e-learning tools and techniques are going to adapt with the new technologies fast, and the users are going to be benefited with the use of new technologies. So this is going to be adaptive also, changing with the space of ICT. Then because of the mobile devices on which e-learning platforms are also convenient to be opened and used, so it promotes mobile learning also. Then because the content is delivered online, the content is available online, reporting becomes easy. Attendance, making the attendance of students, then evaluating the students in terms of various types of tests, be it your MCQ type of objective type of test, or be it your short answer or one word answer test. So everything will be fast, and the reports will also be generated faster. Therefore, it is user friendly in terms of generation of reports, and the management, because the entire information is already going to be not only created but also available in the electronic form in terms of various types of files. It will be easier to generate various types of not only the reports, to manage all kinds of resources also. That will also become easier and convenient. So that was about, initiatives taken by the government in terms of e-learning. Now, we will talk about our university also. Nagpur University has also taken some steps, some humble steps in the field of e-learning. During this, COVID pandemic lockdown period, the university has ushered into providing an online platform wherein the teachers will log in and the students will also, will log into this platform, which is called as RTMNU e-Shiksha portal, and teachers will first create they will register themselves, and the teachers can go on creating the lectures. They can, or if they already have their lectures created in some or the other multimedia format, they can right away upload their lectures in this portal. And these lectures will not be something which is totally interdisciplinary, but the lectures will also cater to the needs of the curriculum. The lectures will be based on which course and which paper they are talking about. So there will be various mechanisms of searching which will be at the disposal of students. The student can search with the name of the teacher. The student can search the learning material with the name of the teacher, with the name of the course, and with the name of the subject as well. So various searching modes are also provided, and we are in the process of augmenting it and refining it and making it more useful with the kind of feedback that we are getting from the teachers and a few students as well. And this is about this particular e-Shiksha portal. And as I've been telling you that under NMEICT, Ministry of HRD has started various schemes and projects. Nagpur University website provides the shortcuts to those initiatives already. We can see that there is a shortcut to National Digital Library of India. On this pull down menu, we can see that there is NDL, there is a shortcut to National Program on Technology Enabled Learning, NPTEL, and then there are shortcuts to RTMNU e-Shiksha also. And this digital degree NSDL's project called National Academic Depository. This is also one very prestigious scheme of the government, and Nagpur University is also participating in this National Academic Depository. The university is posting the degrees of the students on this NAD of NSDL, and the students who wish to get their degree online from anywhere in the world can simply log into this NAD and can access their degree from there, and their degree doesn't need any further verification for that matter, because this is a government project and verified by government. And in terms of providing the learning material or delivering the e-content to the learner community, Nagpur University on its website has provided a link to e-library also, wherein you get a shortcut to eShow the Sindhu. eShow the Sindhu is a prestigious scheme of INFLIBNET UGC, wherein the students and the researchers and teachers get access to more than 8,000 full text e-journals as well as 10 databases also. These databases include citation databases, abstracting databases, which are full text, and the journals are all licensed ones. The full text journals, meaning thereby that you can lay your hands on the full text of the research articles of the reputed journals, which are otherwise not available in the open access domain, or you can say that which are not available simply through the Google. These are licensed e-journals. So you can get access to various e-books that have been purchased by the university. The full text e-books are available. More than 1,400 e-books are made available, and these are the books recommended by the subject experts. of the university. Then there is a shortcut to Shodhganga, and then there is some humble steps have been taken to provide services to the visually impaired students also, in terms of another project called as Sugamya Pustakalaya. And to access the licensed material from this particular e-library, which is showing on the screen, all that you need is remote login, which is showing on the screen at third number in the pull down menu, remote login. So to access remote login, to get a remote login, you have to contact in the university, and those who are entitled to get the remote login, they can submit their details, and with the help of remote login, you can access full text of these journals under eShoda Sindhu and ebooks at your mouse click from your mobile phones, from your laptops or tablets. Well, so much of talk about e-learning, its advantages, its various there is the kind of paradigm shift that we are seeing especially in the times of pandemic. So it may so happen that we may become so obsessed with the entire content made available online, and with this kind of environment, that the students may get this idea that, okay, since all the material is available online, so I don't have to worry much, I can just be very comfortable, and when the exam comes near, I can just open the content and just go through it and learn from it. It's not like that, friends. See what this particular image or cartoon, from this cartoon, I wish to say that the student is saying here that the student is talking to his parents, and the student very is very confidently saying that you don't have to worry about my future anymore. I just downloaded an entire college education. Since all the course material is available online, doesn't mean that you downloaded and then you sleep over it. The student has to be educated with the help of the teachers, with the help of the tutors or their mentors or their trainers, and the student has to get all kinds of learning experiences. Otherwise, just downloading the content and keeping it at your bedside will not solve your problem. So Kathy Moore, who has a good experience in this field of e-learning, this particular expert has to say that the most important principle for designing lively e-learning is to see e-learning design not as an information design, but as designing an experience. Precisely what the experts have to say for e-learning as a caution here is that please do not think that we have prepared the content, you deliver the content, and the job is done and it is e-learning. Simply preparing the content and delivering the content to the student is not all about e-learning. Friends, e-learning is more about the e-learning experience. The student should feel involved. The student should feel that he is able to comprehend what is being taught in the class. The student should get an experience of sharing the ideas with his peers also. Students should get that kind of competitive edge also from his peers. So you see, the entire learning experience has to be incorporated into the e-learning. Just having a Zoom platform, just having a WebEx platform, just by merely creating a link and getting logged into some GoToMeeting, Google Meeting, or any other meeting platform or training platform doesn't mean that it is your e-learning system. It is not, friends. It is just a way of getting connected into the system. You are simply getting connected. Like in the present moment, wherein I am teaching you through this Zoom platform, but Zoom is not a complete LMS system. Zoom is more meant for holding the meetings. So therefore, this is just one way of logging into a common platform online. But the content that I am delivering through sharing my screen, but this is also not a complete learning experience. The student has to get a feel of the college, the classroom, the laboratory, or the library. So all that kind of experiences have to be incorporated. Then also we cannot say that it is going to replace, but it will be a very useful platform that can be used as an alternative when we are in crisis, when we are unable to come together and teach the students face to face. So there are certain challenges in e-learning in India. Friends, this is what are the challenges when I even forget India, if it is any geographical location, any country, any state, or any particular geographical area that is in that we are talking about, the matter is about infrastructure, the availability of the required infrastructure, the accessibility of required infrastructure, the affordability of the required infrastructure, and then whether the users are conversant with the embedded technologies or the required technologies. These are some important, very important aspects which have been addressed by various communities in terms of, as a broader picture, we call it digital divide. There is a huge divide between haves and have-nots. Some people have internet while others do not have. Some people have high-speed internet while others don't have. Some people have access to smartphones while others do not have access to smartphones. Some people have access to only computers in their offices while others do not have access to the desktops. Forget about smartphones. If some people have access only to the mobile phones which do not have any operating system like Android or Windows, or for that matter Apple iPhone, they have simple types of iPhones which cannot support multimedia. So there is a huge divide between haves and have-nots. Who has internet, who doesn't have? Who has smartphone, who doesn't have? Who has high-speed internet, who doesn't have? Because if you do not have high-speed internet, if the bandwidth is very low, there is no point in having a good gadget with you, because you are unable to get connectivity. So these are, and then there is a huge divide, economic divide. I'm talking about affordability. Think about the people like us, those who are in teaching, like those who are in colleges or in universities. We can afford a smartphone, we can afford an internet. We have good internet in our colleges, we have in our universities, we have good internet in our mobile phones also, which are smartphones. Now think about those people who are sitting in some, you see, Naxalite area or in hilly terrain where the internet is not good, and they are not educated, they do not have enough money in their pocket, and they are still struggling in meeting their requirements of basic amenities. So they cannot afford internet, they cannot afford smartphones. So there is a matter of affordability. So it's not only about the societal divide in terms of those who can afford it economically and those who cannot. There are various types of divide. Males, affordability or availability of internet and mobile phones, smartphones, with males vis-a-vis females. So then there are various social and economic strata where this digital divide is huge. So this is also playing a big role in making the learning technologies available to all. And then if we just assume that one fine day everybody will have high-speed internet, will have access to smartphones, and everything is available to all, then there is a question of literacy. Then there is a question of technical literacy. There is a question of functional literacy. Okay. So what is the literacy rate of your location, of your country? Then what is the gross enrollment ratio of your country, of your state or your country? So all these aspects have to be addressed while dealing with the making e-learning tools available to all on equity basis. Then online, there is another aspect of e-learning. Online content is delivered, not much of learning experience. See, presently what I am doing is, we all are connected through a meeting platform or a software called like Zoom or WebEx, and now I'm trying to deliver my content in terms of, as I told you, a presentation. So this is simply, we can say that content is being delivered, but the students do not feel that it is giving you completely learning experience, because I cannot see you all, I cannot look at your faces, I cannot see who is taking interest, who is not, I cannot see right away, who has questions in his mind. And then, there's so many aspects that in a physical classroom are dealt with more efficiently than this distant platform. Then there is lack of human contact, and then there is seepage of boredom. The students feel bored because they feel that the teacher is unable to make out whether I'm attentive or not. So though there are various steps are, being taken by the software agencies, there are many platforms, many softwares which claim that, okay, my software is going to tell you which student are attentive, which are not, which students are present on the screen or not, which student has minimized the window. They are trying to incorporate a lot of artificial intelligence or internet of thing concepts into these platforms, but still the entire learning experience is not available, and the students or the learners tend to become bored easily. And that is why, because of boredom, there is a lack of focus. Now let us have a good look at some important statistics, which is important while we talk about e-learning in our country especially. So we see that a survey has been done by this particular agency, and if we have take a good look at the education and the data that has been accumulated up to 2019, we see that in India, 71% of adults do not have upper secondary education. Even among younger adults, women have not attained upper secondary education compared to 58% of men. And then the share of tertiary education adults is, though the figure is growing, I will show you another statistics also. So the majority of Indian students in tertiary education hereby means that higher education, the majority of Indian students in higher education are enrolled in private institutions as compared to the government institutions. And that is why we have also seen that the student to teacher ratio in these private institutions is lower also, is much lower than in public institutions. Although the share of doctorate, okay, we are showing some better trends in terms of PhDs. Let us have a look at India's gross enrollment ratio in higher education over time. See, when India got independent and some parent organizations or agencies came into existence who could govern the higher education, we started, our gross enrollment ratio was 0.4 in 1950-51, and over this much, in a period of around 70 years, this gross enrollment ratio has increased appreciably, and now we stand at 25.20 in the year 2017 and 18. So let us have a look at, as I told you, there is a huge digital divide in terms of haves and have-nots, who has internet, who doesn't have. So let us have a look at this. There is one, survey, and I have taken this data online, and this survey has been done by some private agency, which is a global agency. And this particular survey says that top 20, it is a ranking of top 20 countries with highest number of internet users in 2020 Q1, in the first 3 months of the year 2020. So we see that China stands at first rank, and the total number of internet users in 2020 in China are, we can see that it is it is more than 2 crore, you see, 2.25 crore users, internet users are there in China in the year 2020. And if we talk about India, which is ranked second in terms of internet users worldwide. Friends, we as a country, we are second in terms of internet users. So our data says that the internet users in our country in the first quarter that is up to the end of March 2020, our country has more than 56 crore users, while in China there are more than 85 crore users, internet users. So while United States of America has around 31 crores of internet users in the first quarter of 2020. So this way, India seems to have good number of internet users. Now let us have a look at the number of smartphones, the number of users of smartphones and the penetration. The penetration means the usage of smartphones. We see that this is the country-wise ranking of smartphones, and India is ranked at 18th. And the smartphone total population of India in this particular statistics is taken as around 136 crore. So with the population of more than 136 crore in India, there are around 502 million smartphone users, meaning thereby the penetration of smartphone or the usage of smartphone is only by 27% population. So the overall summary of this entire statistics in terms of our country says that India has 27% of smartphone users only. So this was some important, statistics that play an important role in terms of usage of e-learning. And with this, I end my presentation here, and I'm going to stop my screen sharing, and then we can have a question answer round. Do we have some queries or questions?
किसी कोई सवाल है?
आपका सवाल हिंदी, इंग्लिश, मराठी इन तीनों में से किसी भी भाषा में हो सकता है.
ये आपने जो है ये यूनिवर्सिटी के ई शिक्षा के बारे में बहुत अच्छा बताया कि कैसे यूनिवर्सिटी ने इनिशिएटिव लिया है. वहाँ मैंने मैम एक प्रॉब्लम देखी है कि वहाँ कोर्स के कंपोनेंट नहीं है, काफ़ी रैंडमली वो जो है पूरे कोर्सेज जो है टीचर्स जाके वहाँ जो है अपलोड करते हैं. If I want to access, I can search it. It's very good. I mean, search engine is given. But if I want to see as to how many, study material is given in particular subject, I mean that compartmentalization is not there.
Okay, sir. Actually, as I think you answered the question also in your first section of question. See, we have left this to the teachers, that every teacher while uploading his lecture should make sure that he specifies the course, the name of the course which is standard, like say BA part 1 or semester, whatever, and then he should specify the subject also the way it is mentioned in the syllabus, and then the unit also, and then the topic also. Once he specifies everything in this manner, अगर वो सारे ही जो options वहां पर आ रहे हैं अगर उनको ठीक से और करेक्टली आंसर करते हैं टीचर्स बिफोर अपलोडिंग द कंटेंट, तब उतना ही अच्छा वो सर्च इंजन यूजफुल होगा सर. क्योंकि अगर हम वो चीजों को छोड़ देंगे तो बहुत डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा. This is happening, some people are uploading the name of the course while others are not.
Ma'am, could you please say something about the role of institutions in this modern time of, you say e-learning? How they can work along universities like?
Okay, the way I have understood your question is how any institution should go about promoting e-learning or facilitating e-learning.
Yes.
So, जैसा कि मैंने अपने in the last section of my presentation, I told you, first thing to be addressed is see if you are one of the victims of digital divide. If at all, then where are the loopholes? Plug them. So, what I mean precisely is make first the institution should have good high-speed internet, dedicated internet access. Then they should have good hardware and software when we talk about creating the content. Like, okay, you cannot leave everything to the teacher, that the teacher should prepare the content, he should use his own gadget, because this is no way going to solve the problem. The institution can provide good e-classroom facilities or smart classroom facilities, at least at a few locations in the institution. Start with one video conferencing system, which provides with web camera also, video conferencing facility also. It can be, then the teacher can go on creating the content. There should be a facility of recording also, and then uploading the content. The institution can go on subscribing their own channel for delivering the real-time sessions. So this way the institution has to first come forward in facilitating with the required hardware, and then the institution has to zero down or decide upon a platform for meeting or platform for training. I'm not talking about LMS. Like, you see, there has been some guideline from the government that Zoom should be the usage of Zoom, instead of Zoom, we should go about using another softwares, other softwares. So WebEx or, Google Classroom, or then, so not only online meeting software should be purchased or provided or yes, given by the institution. Then some LMS, the institution can go about purchasing some LMS also. And these LMSs, or if we cannot purchase, we can right away use the free ones. We can start, we can design our curriculum using Moodle. We can start the classroom session with the help of Google Classrooms. So, but the institution has to start with these initiatives, make the infrastructure available, then make some facilities available in the institution, and then provide certain amount of training also to the teachers, because teachers belong to different faculties. Everybody is not very conversant with the technology. So, and with this kind of help from the institutions, then we can go about not only creating the content but delivering the content also. And then the students are also to be provided with some not only this, I don't think that all the students have smartphones, because when we talk about, when we make such statements, we keep only urban students in our mind. We forget the student who is there in Gadchiroli, in Heri or Sironcha, or in some hilly terrain in Northeast or in Uttarakhand, where the student could be economically backward. He may not afford a smartphone. Then what all steps can be taken by the institutions? Can the institution provide laptops to the students on loan basis? Can the institutions procure some tablets and provide to the economically and socially backward students, and also to other administrators also if it is needed? So these steps, these issues are also to be addressed, and of course everybody has to be given some training, and then we have to make sure that the content, the e-learning content that is going to be uploaded on the internet, it should be in a secure environment. Over to you, sir.
मैम, जैसे आज से 2-3 साल पहले हम जब आ रहे थे तो भाषा हिंदी और मराठी से संबंधित जो संदर्भ ग्रंथ थे उसकी कमी थी ई बुक से जनरल में। क्या वो कमी पूरी हो गई है? 2 या 3 साल पहले हम जब मेरी आवाज आ रही है आपको?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
हाँ, मराठी और हिंदी भाषा से संबंधित जो संदर्भ ग्रंथ थे उसकी कमी थी, तो आपने कहा था वो फिलहाल कमी है पर वो जल्दी पूरी कर ली जाएगी, तो क्या वो कमी पूरी कर ली गई है?
ओके सर, मैं समझती हूँ कि आपका कंसर्न यहाँ पर शायद संदर्भ ग्रंथ आपने कहा तो रेफरेंस बुक से है, और वो भी शायद यूनिवर्सिटी लाइब्रेरी।
जी 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 जी।
ओके तो देखिए यूनिवर्सिटी, नागपुर यूनिवर्सिटी लाइब्रेरी में क्या क्या रिसोर्सेज अवेलेबल हैं, और देखिए स्टेप्स तो लिए जा रहे हैं कि खरीदे जाए ज्यादा से ज्यादा टीचर्स के, एक्सपर्ट्स के रिकमेंडेशन के ऊपर, बट सारी ही रिक्वायरमेंट सभी की तो फुलफिल नहीं की जा सकती। दैट इज द रीजन कि एक कंसोर्शियम या शेयर्ड प्लेटफॉर्म होता है। तो इसीलिए मैंने आपसे कहा कि जो कॉलेजेस में है वो जो ई शोध सिंधु है स्कीम, उसमें उनकी लाइब्रेरी पार्टिसिपेंट होनी चाहिए, ताकि आपको विभिन्न भाषाओं में जो इंडियन लिटरेचर है, जो कि टीचर्स ने रेफरेंस सोर्स, रेफरेंस बुक करके बताया है, वो वहां पे उनको अवेलेबल हो। तो सर मैं आपको ये स्ट्रांगली सजेस्ट करूंगी कि आप ई शोध सिंधु डेलनेट के माध्यम से, आपके कॉलेज के लाइब्रेरी के माध्यम से, इनफ्लिपनेट के माध्यम से आप उसे एक्सेस करें। वहां पे 30 लाख से ज्यादा ई बुक्स हैं, तो मैं समझती हूँ कि वो वर्नाकुलर रीजनल भाषाओं में भी है, और रेफरेंस बुक्स को स्पेशली वो कवर करती है क्योंकि यूजीसी ने वो सब अवेलेबल कराया है। तो आप उन्हें देखें और फिर देखिए कि आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट फुलफिल हो रही है या नहीं, और वो सब फ्रीली अवेलेबल है सर।
हेलो,
थैंक यू।
यस
हेलो,
यस।
good morning, madam. I have one question. I am from Department of English, Mende, Amol Mende, sir. Madam, I want to ask, is there any facility of online registration related to our university library?
Okay, sir.
Can we enroll through online process, or
Sir,
physically we have to go there and submit the documents?
डॉक्यूमेंट सबमिशन के लिए सर आप किससे संबंधित कह रहे हैं?
Just to join the university library as a
You want to
member.
access the resources?
हाँ, yes.
आपको रिसोर्सेज एक्सेस करने हैं तो मैंने जो ई लाइब्रेरी बताया था उसमें मैंने आप लोग को बताया कि एक रिमोट लॉगिन का फैसिलिटी है, लेकिन मैंने बोला था कि रिमोट लॉगिन सभी को प्रोवाइड किया जा सकता है, उन सभी को जो एंटाइटल्ड है रिमोट लॉगिन के लिए। तो कौन एंटाइटल्ड है? जैसे कि जो रिसर्चर्स हैं, दोज हु आर पीएचडी गाइड्स, दोज हु आर डूइंग पीएचडी रिसर्चर्स, चाहे प्रोजेक्ट हो चाहे पीएचडी कर रहे हो, ऐसे सभी लोग फॉर्म भर सकते हैं और रिमोट लॉगिन के यूजर बन सकते हैं। वंस यू गेट रिमोट लॉगिन, आप कहीं से भी लॉगिन करके फुल टेक्स्ट ई जर्नल देख सकते हैं, फुल टेक्स्ट डेटाबेस देख सकते हैं, फुल टेक्स्ट ई बुक्स जो हमने परचेज किए वो भी सब ओपन करके आप एक्सेस कर सकते हैं।
So I am talking about annual membership.
एनुअल मेंबरशिप सर, लाइब्रेरी मेंबरशिप की यदि आप बात कर रहे हैं तो वो तो फीचर ऑनलाइन अभी प्रोवाइड नहीं किया गया है, क्योंकि आई थिंक लॉट ऑफ सम यू नो बट ये गुड इनिशिएटिव है। अगर आप कहेंगे तो दिस इज गुड सजेशन, सॉरी, तो ये इनिशिएटिव हम जरूर ले सकते हैं।
I think in this pandemic situation it is quite important.
यस सर, पर अभी मैं आपको ये सजेस्ट करूंगी कि अगर आप पीएचडी गाइड है या रिसर्च कर रहे हैं तो आप रिमोट लॉगिन का डेटा भेज दीजिए हमारे ईमेल आईडी पे, हम आपको रिमोट लॉगिन प्रोवाइड कर देंगे एंड यू कैन एक्सेस द ई लाइब्रेरी।
Okay, madam. Thank you.
एंड प्लीज रिमेंबर, हमारा ई लाइब्रेरी आपको गूगल पे नहीं मिलेगा फ्री।
Okay, it is attached to our university website.
जी
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you.
ओके, आई थिंक दिस इज ऑल।
No, I have something to say. Ma'am, actually, while we are uploading study material to eShiksha portal of our university, I have seen that there is no integration system as to somebody should go through my study material if it is worthwhile, or if it is prepared well, or if it is, I have taken care properly. I mean, this is not there. If you go to and if you go and visit different study material, you see that the material is not prepared with the well consciousness which is required. So sometimes I see actually the study material is not supporting the quality measures, and as a visitor, as a student, when I see it, I don't see the quality is maintained.
Okay.
So we need to introduce a system, a filtration system, so that a quality-based material only should be introduced in our eShiksha portal.
Okay, I have understood your question, sir. Actually, while preparing this, designing this particular portal, I had thought of putting some standardization into the lecture material that could be uploaded to bring about some standards. But then we thought that because during the time of pandemic, it was important to make the content available to the students immediately. So we thought that we will not make the procedure very stringent in the beginning. But in the later phases of this development, we are going to bring about standardization. And if you look into the, while upload the module wherein the teachers can upload, you have seen that we have put some conditions, some instructions that please give references. Please upload the file having references, the text file having references. But we have seen that teachers have avoided that portion also. But in the later phases, we are going to make such sections compulsory also. And so when we talk about the quality of the lecture which is being delivered, so it is very difficult for one teacher to pass comment on the quality of lecture of the other teacher, because we assume that a teacher in his subject who is appointed as a teacher in any college or university, he is good at his job. So we have this mutual, trust and respect for every teacher also. But nevertheless, your suggestion is good, and we already are working on it to bring about a standardization into the lecture which is being prepared.
किसी प्रतिभागी के कोई सवाल? किसी प्रतिभागी कोई सवाल हो तो भी पूछ सकते हैं।
हेलो,
Okay, I think we can just end the session, sir, please.
ओके मैम, आज के इस आभार प्रदर्शन का है वो भी मेरे तरफ है, वो भी मेरे प्रकाश मैम हमारे बीच रही है। उन्होंने बहुत सारी जानकारी हमें दी, चाहे वो कंटेंट डिलीवरी टूल्स के संबंध में हो या फिर एडवांटेजेस हो या अपॉर्चुनिटी। आज डॉक्टर हमारे बीच रही है, उन्होंने बहुत सारी बातों की बहुत सारी जानकारी हमें दी, आने वाले चैलेंज चाहे वो कंटेंट डिलीवरी हो या RTMNU की ई शिक्षा के ग्रुप है, और बहुत सारे हमारे जो जिज्ञासा थी उसे शांत किया है। आपका बहुत आभारी है मैम आपके इस मार्गदर्शन के लिए। साथ ही हमारे महाविद्यालय प्राचार्य जो कि हमारे मार्गदर्शक भी हैं, डॉक्टर यशवंत पाटिल जी, डॉक्टर सुदेश भोते, डॉक्टर मिथिलेश से, जिन्होंने FTP की पूरी धुरी संभाली है। आप सभी प्रतिभागियों का मैं आभार मानता हूँ, और आज का ये सेशन यही समाप्त था।
थैंक यू। प्रतिभागियों के लिए कुछ सूचनाएं हम लोग देना चाहेंगे। संडे के दिन जो है हमने प्रेजेंटेशन का डे रखा है। जिन प्रतिभागियों ने हमने एक असाइनमेंट डे 1 को दिया था, और वो पावरपॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन से रिलेटेड था, और आपको अपने ही सब्जेक्ट में जो आप पढ़ाते हैं उस पर बेस्ड एक 10-12 स्लाइड का एक पावरपॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन बनाना था और वो सबमिट करना था। लेकिन अगर से कुछ प्रतिभागी उन प्रेजेंटेशन को हम सबके साथ शेयर करना चाहते हैं, प्रेजेंट करना चाहते हैं, तो हमने उसके लिए एक डे रिजर्व रखा है संडे। तो अगर से आप में से किसी का प्रेजेंटेशन आता है तो हम लोग संडे को वो जो है हम लोग सेशन ऑन करेंगे, अन्यथा उस दिन सेशन नहीं होगा। तो आप हमें कल तक बताएं, कल यहाँ हम लोग वापस जब आएंगे सेशन के लिए तो आप अपने ओपिनियन हमारे सामने रखिएगा। अच्छा, कल भी जो है एक सेशन में एक चेंज है। कल जो है ढोले सर और कावेरी सर के 2 लेक्चर होने थे, लेकिन कल जो है रेखा शर्मा मैडम जो है वो अपना लेक्चर डिलीवर करेंगे, क्योंकि रेखा शर्मा मैडम जो है वो सिर्फ 18 जुलाई को ही अवेलेबल हो सकते हैं। तो इसलिए एक चेंज है, और कल जो है फैसिलिटेटर के तौर पर अमोल भिंडे सर है, तो वो ये चेंज नोट करेंगे, और रेखा शर्मा मैडम का जो CV है या जो है वो रिकवर करेंगे। इसके लिए आप प्रिंसिपल की हेल्प ले सकते हैं। आज का सेशन यही समाप्त होता है। थैंक यू वेरी मच।